You might have noticed the extremely obnoxious and in-your-face rectangle to my right, OMRT, Old Man Random Thought. I put that up. I'm going back and forth on whether or not I'm going to have that as the name for the channel. I guess it's going to be the name for the channel, Old Man Random Thoughts. Although sometimes it's thought and sometimes it's thoughts. Well, today's random thought is not all that random, and it concerns the rise in the tempo and the loudness, the screeching on various YouTube channels about the war about to start. Boy, I tell you, himself plays the media like a fine violinist plays a Stradivarius. And I think that's what it is, hyperbole mostly. I hope so, because a full-on attack by the U.S. on Iran would be really nasty for everybody involved. And it does seem to concern nuclear weapons and the Iranian capability for them. But it's a heck of a thing to demonstrate. The reason they want them is so they can't be bullied. I mean, you might not like the Ayatollah or whoever's in charge, or you might feel sympathy for the Iranian people, but a sovereign nation probably has the right, if we're talking about morality, and that's a ridiculous thing to mention in this context, has the right to acquire whatever kind of weapons they want. And the incentive gets demonstrated more and more. If you don't have them, people will bully you. Somebody asked the rhetorical question, why don't we do this with North Korea? Well, I think the nukes are the reason. You don't need a missile, although they've been playing with missiles in North Korea. All you need to do is have a freighter under some registry somewhere, sails into one of the harbors in the U.S., and in its hold, it's got something that's too big to put in an airplane, but something that makes a big splash when it goes off in the water. So there's a capability, and I'm sure that the U.S. intel services are aware of that, at least of the possibility. I hope they're thinking about it. In the case of Iran, all of this suggests that the nuclear facilities were not taken out, or not taken out sufficiently, with the conventional explosive bunker busters. When was that? This stuff happens so much you lose track of when it was. It wasn't that long ago. It was within a year that the B-2 stealth bombers dropped those things precisely. But you have to remember, the Iranians have had a long time and a great incentive to hide all this stuff and to have backup facilities and all of this. Now, there's also a presumption that Israel put us up to it. See, I still think like a gringo. I'm trying to stop that. Put the U.S. up to it. That it's in Israel's interest to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and that Israel has some influence on the U.S. government. I don't know. I'll leave that to you to decide. Is it going to happen? I don't know. It could be a bluff. I mean, bringing the aircraft carriers in there. Speaking of aircraft carriers, one of the big talking points in the last few days, as this is built up on YouTube among the experts and non-experts like me, is the aircraft carriers. There's going to be two carriers with battle groups associated with each one. And they're going to be what they feel is a safe distance off Iran. We'll see how safe it is, and that's the question. Do the Iranians have the capability, and they're talking hypersonic missiles, of hitting one of those carriers to do major damage and to probably put one of them out of action at the very least and send it home for repairs? Would be any kind of a strike. If you've got aircraft on the deck, any kind of a strike is going to make a mess. Why hypersonics? Because you can't you can't track and shoot at hypersonics. There isn't anything to do it right now. What will do it eventually is lasers, but they're not quite there yet. But hypersonic missiles, especially if you could generate a swarm of them, would do great mischief to the carriers. And the fact that they're supported by all these ships around them, and no doubt a bunch of submarines as well, it's not going to do anything for them with something coming in at Mach 6 or 7. Somebody said Mach 15, but that's ridiculous. I don't know if there's anything that could tolerate the heating going at Mach 15 in the atmosphere. We'll find out, maybe. So war, rumors of wars, lots of rumors. Well, this is a rumor of war. The forces have always been around, not quite so close, but the rumor of war could be a negotiating tool. So they negotiate that they're not going to have nukes and going to be perpetually bullied by larger powers. Not that I want them to have nukes. I don't want anybody to have nukes, you know. I hope we could all agree on that, even though we can't do it, of course. What a creature human beings are, what creatures they are, to have the collective intelligence and drive and determination to destroy themselves, that they come up with all kinds of amazing inventions. Nuclear energy could be used to power a better world for people. But instead, its very first use is to destroy things, to destroy cities. That's its first use. I'm afraid that's the way people do things. AI, robots, for instance. The science fiction principle from the 50s, from Asimov, I think, was the robots shall not harm human beings, or by failing to act, allow harm to come to human beings. Well, that's very nice, and that's when it was speculation. But the reality is that the first use and the entity paying the big bills to develop robots will be the military. And that is what their purpose is, to kill human beings. The military's purpose, and if any robots put on a uniform, that's going to be their purpose too. You know, they got to be part of the team and go out there and massacre our fellow humans. It's in human nature. I have an argument every time I'm up north with a friend of mine on the coast of Maine, and he has this affected, I think it's affected, it couldn't be real, thought that human beings are so wonderful. You know, like that thing from Shakespeare, what a work is man, so noble, you know, so godlike. I don't think so. I think probably a mix of good and bad. It's amazing human beings have done as well as they have, and objectively, it might be inevitable that they reach that crescendo of their creative, destructive drive that they do themselves in. The sad part is that they're going to have a lot of collateral damage among nature's other creatures who have just as much of a right to live here as humans do. Human exceptionalism, that's one of the many horrible traits that humans have. They're not part of the world, they dominate the world. They're in charge of the world. Hey, what about the shrinkage of population? We used to talk about population explosion. Now it's an implosion. I know a lot of people don't know the difference between an implosion and an explosion, but it means that instead of too many people, there's going to be fewer people. And I'm not saying too few, because I think something like 250 million people in the world would be about right. 250 million, 250 million. I think that's a good number. Everybody could have a farm. There'd be plenty of land. There'd be, if the wealth was distributed, which calls for a different kind of human than we have today. Who's going to share the productivity of the AI and the robots? The people that own the AI and robots, or the general public? What do you think? How does it work? Return on investment. Unfortunately, things just keep going the way they always have gone. And I'd like to give you more hope, but I can't do it. I'm a naysayer. That we haven't nuked ourselves already is the most amazing thing. I quite frankly think that the fact that we have not nuked ourselves in the last, 70 years is aliens. I mean, what is a stranger postulate that humans have become responsible at high levels? Yeah. That the leadership of the world in the last 70 years has been so responsible and so, so good that they haven't pushed the button. No, that's not likely. What's more likely is that there's aliens among us and that they have suppressed nuclear weapons, that they have, maybe there were launch attempts at some point that never happened. Well, you're not going to tell the public that you fired your nuclear gun and the bullet didn't go anywhere. You're not going to tell them that. So if you've got to choose between aliens having suppressed nuclear war in the past or humans being responsible, I'm afraid as far-fetched as it is, the aliens are more probable than humans becoming responsible. It's sad, but I guess thank you aliens if you did. If it was humans, I'm impressed. I didn't think they were capable of it. Well, we've almost rambled for 12 minutes here. I'm experimenting. This thing in this big box next to my head, that's a new idea. It's because YouTube takes one of the frames from this and uses it as a thumbnail, because I can't put up my own thumbnail because I don't have a two-factor authentication down here in South America. 12 minutes. Wow. Thank you for staying with me this long, if you're one of the few that do. Hit the subscribe button. I guess it's a good idea. They keep saying that I should say that. And take care of yourself and really all the best to you, and try to be happy, even though I really haven't encouraged happiness in anyone in the last 12 or 13 minutes. Ciao.